The Retirement Commissioner, Diana Crossan, is standing down. She has, has she left our retirement savings in better shape than what she found them? First, let's welcome our journalists on the panel, Alex Tarrant from interest.co.nz and John Hartevelt, Fairfax media political journalist as well. Welcome to the Retirement Commissioner, Diana Crossan, who's in our Wellington studio. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. Morning, Rachel. Hi, John and Alex.
Good morning.
So you've had 10 years in the job, Commissioner. What's been your greatest achievement, do you think?
I think the whole area of financial literacy, the movement, I guess, that we now have. New Zealand developed a national strategy and we did it in a different way, which meant that we were able to bring in the private sector, the community sector and the government together and develop something that showed this was about New Zealand Inc. It wasn't just about government, it's not just about the private sector, and it's been very successful, I think.
On another note, if you look at the issues surrounding the retirement age, how frustrated are you by John Key's stance on this, that, you know, historically he said he won't move on the retirement age this term? Hasn't that failed to give people, I guess, a sense of certainty about the future?
Well, I think, yes, there's two jobs the Retirement Commissioner has. One of them is to help New Zealanders prepare financially for their retirement. And we've done that through financial literacy. I talked about the national strategy, through the Sorted website, which of course is hugely successful. The other side of the job is talking to the government and others about, is the nation ready? And that's one of the issues we review every 3 years. And in 2007, we put out a whole lot of options, the discussion didn't take off. So in 2010, I made a recommendation, quite a strong one. And I did that because I think that New Zealanders have to have a close look at how to afford New Zealand Super in the future. New Zealand Super is a national treasure. We want to hold on to it. We want it to be available for 30 and 40-year-olds in the future. Now, the Prime Minister made a decision. He's the Prime Minister. He has different levers than I do. He has different ways, different things he can do. For me, it was about making sure that 30 and 40-year-olds now know that there will be a New Zealand Super, but it may come later.
Something else that seems to have frustrated you, Ms Crossan, is on the financial literacy terms and the rollout with financial literacy packages in schools. At the Retirement Commission, you've got the packages all ready to go, yet the Ministry of Education isn't able to fund these. How frustrating is that, and should that be done?
You can call me Diana, please. Sure. Yes, we are frustrated about that. It's not just the Ministry of Education, it's the way we have our education system is one of the least prescribed school systems in the world, so it's up to the local principal and the board and the local community what they teach in their schools. And we also must remember we have one of the best school systems in the world. So it's actually more about resources, about promotion, about getting the resources and the information out there. We are watched across the Tasman, where they have been given $10 million, for example, over 3 years to put into teacher development, and we haven't had any budget for that. Right. So yes, there is a frustration, but we are very excited about how many schools have taken it on. There are organisations that have been working in schools for years, and we're very excited that we're almost there. And I just was so hopeful that in the 10 years I've been in this job that we would get every school in New Zealand involved in financial education. I think it's essential, but it hasn't happened.
Diana, I'm interested in your view on one of the government's key arguments for its mixed ownership model, and that is giving the opportunity for Kiwi mums and dads to invest. What's the strength of that argument in your view? Do you think the burst of shares onto the market will have a real benefit for New Zealand?
It's very hard to tell that one, but there are some words of caution. One is that I really think that if and when the government does put those shares into the market, they need to put an education program around it. A lot of people don't understand what a share is and how it works. And I think that there's a whole education needed around that. Also, people need to know that maybe they will have those shares in their KiwiSaver product, and they may be better not to buy shares if they've got some already. So there's a lot of issues.
Diana, just in terms of KiwiSaver, we've just ticked over to 2 million members yesterday, yes. I think. Is it time to look at the cost of that scheme? Is there room to perhaps get rid of the kickstart, for instance?
Well, I think that there are maybe other ways to save money. The kickstart was, we looked at it when I was on the product working group, and it was one of those things that helped people over that procrastination. You know, lots and lots of New Zealanders said I was going to save, but I haven't got round to it, and the kickstart certainly helped. So it probably is worth having a good look at KiwiSaver. We don't want to change it too much. New Zealanders, it's been very successful in getting New Zealanders into it. So there will be a chance, I think, in 2014 when the government has a close look at many aspects of KiwiSaver.
Diana, should it be compulsory, do you think?
I tend to be against compulsion. I've had a look at all the systems around the world, and I think New Zealand has one of the best. There's a whole lot of reasons. One is, if you're on a really low income in New Zealand, can you afford to go into KiwiSaver? Or should you be putting your money into your kids' school camp or breakfast, or even just getting to and from work? That's the first thing. The second one is that if we've got 2 million people in it already, who are the people that aren't in it? Let's have a close look at that and find out why they're not there before we do this. The other thing that worries me is that compulsion suits the finance sector and lawyers. If you look across the nation, there's a whole lot of bureaucracy, and the finance sector, of course, supports that kind of change because they get a whole lot more work. So I'm just slightly concerned about that we rush into it for sort of rather superficial reasons, and we should be looking at it in much more depth.
So Diana, what changes do you think could be made to KiwiSaver or should be made to KiwiSaver?
Well, I don't think a lot. I think one of the things that I agree entirely with the finance sector is let's not change things too much. We did in the beginning, and it was a real worry that people would think that if we can change it that quickly and that often, why go into it? If the government, there's quite a fear that the government will keep tinkering away at it. So I would suggest that we leave it for quite a while, and it's got lots of good aspects to it, and watch and encourage people to save with it.
I just wanted to bring it back to the political side of this, if I can, Diana. Have you spoken directly to the Prime Minister about your belief that that we should raise the retirement age? Have you had direct conversations and lobbied your points with him?
I haven't needed to. I think the Prime Minister, I have had conversations with the Prime Minister, and I've also spoken with other members of the government, and it's very clear what my recommendation is. It's not so much an issue about my way of doing it. It's the issue of that the Prime Minister made a statement to the nation that he wouldn't raise the age of eligibility. So if he was to change that, then there are 2 or 3 ways you might do that. Of course, the Prime Minister could close, as I've said before, he could close some prisons or do other things to find the money. What I was trying to do was say, we need to hold on to New Zealand super, we need to find a way of finding 3% of GDP. It's not just about the baby boomers. New Zealand's population is ageing anyway, and we're going to have a totally different structure in the future, and we don't want young New Zealanders to have to pay twice. So we're trying to find a way of doing it within the framework of retirement income.
OK, so essentially, though, you've said what the Prime Minister could and couldn't do, ways he could make this work, but he's closed down the debate. What would you like him to do? What would be the tangible way you would like to see him act?
Well, it would be very nice if he was able to find a way of saying, you know, I made a statement in 2008 and things have moved on and I've seen the figures and I agree with the Retirement Commissioner. That would be a nice parting shot for me. But he's made that statement. So I think that one of the things for me that's quite important is that we are having this discussion. We're having this conversation today. New Zealanders are watching it. I don't think there's probably probably anyone in the country who's between 30 and 40 who hasn't heard that it might go up in the future. That was my main concern. I don't want it to happen in a hurry. I want New Zealanders to be aware of it, to plan for it, and I know that when a 30-year-old gets to 67, they'll wonder what all the fuss was about, because it'll feel like we do at 65.
Diana, looking to your successor, what is one or two things that you would like your successor to have that perhaps you didn't have?
Well, I think the issue of financial education in schools, if we could keep pushing on that, and if my successor could get that over the line, it would be fantastic. We do have some successes with PISA. New Zealand's in the PISA tests, which are testing 15-year-olds on financial literacy, and that'll help a lot. And we do have good resources, and the Minister this week, in Money Week, the Minister of Education is going to be launching another resource for schools. So there are those good things. The second thing is around older Kiwis. 55 plus. I think we've done really well with the sorted website, and it is the best in the world of its kind, and no doubt about that. And we do have a third of the population using it. But there's the population 55 plus. How do you manage your money as you get towards retirement? And then in retirement, you might have 20 or 30 years in retirement. And that's quite hard because we don't have annuity products. How do you manage your money? And how do we get the private sector to help? And how do we get New Zealanders to get that information? That's a big area.
Diana, would you also like to see whoever replaces you continue your stance on opposing, if you like, compulsion when it comes to KiwiSaver, because that would be at odds, wouldn't it, with Labour's policy?
One of the reasons that another reason that I have lots of reasons for about compulsion. Another concern is, and yes, it would be good if the new person was to take up all these issues. The other concern is that the moment you bring in means testing, you bring in an opportunity for people to hide money. Now, New Zealanders are very good at hiding money. We've got lots of trusts, and we all know that. We all know that, and the IRD are constantly spending time looking behind trusts. So New Zealanders would learn, like other countries have, at the margin to hide their money so that they also can get the pension and be means tested. Also, people spend up large just before they get to 65 or whatever the age is, so that they don't have so much money and then they are eligible. So those are sort of important issues around the age.
Retirement Commissioner Diana Crossan, we have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.